Rekkles. When we think of Rekkles and think about the LCS, we think of a legendary ADC back in 2014 in Season 4 split. Rekkles was known by the community and most of your analysts and journalists as one of the best ADCs, if not the best ADC, last split in Season 4 with Fnatic. Now, before we continue talking about Rekkles, we need to go back and talk before he even joined. And Rekkles, at the age of 16, even younger than that, had this high prospect and had prosperity of being this hyped up character, kind of like Incarnation is right now, even though they have two separate reasons why they're not in the LCS, or were not in the LCS at one time. Rekkles, being underage of 17, he could not join the LCS. And by law, you need to be at least 17 years or older to be in the LCS to, work and get paid and have this as a job. So he was not 17 at the time, but he was known as one of these best ADCs, very hyped. The community was really excited to have him. At the time, Rekkles was playing on some competitive teams in 2012. This is before he was accepted into Fnatic. He was on playing for the Ducks, or playing Ducks, PA, which is P8. Team Black as a substitute, and SK Gaming. In November 2012, he joined Fnatic finally as the starting marksman, but once again, like I said, he was limited by his age because Riot finally put in that stipulation rule that you need to be 17 years of age or older. So he was put on a secondary squad, secondary Fnatic squad, which was eventually signed over by the Copenhagen Wolves. And he continued to play with them for a stand-in, and then depending on how things went in 2013's Season 3 World Championships, it depends on if Rekkles would end up back in Fnatic or if Rekkles would stay where he was at. Now, Rekkles stated that if Puzu won and Fnatic won World 3 Season 3 championships, that he would not join Fnatic, and there's no point because they're a world champion, they don't need him, and they're a world-class team, so why would he come in and just kind of steal the reins when Puzu, proved himself to be this great ADC and can ultimately carry the team to victory? Well, that was not the case. Fnatic ends up losing in Season 3. Ooh, excuse me. Season 3 to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Royal Club, 3-1. And they end up getting kicked out of group stages and losing LCS, and that's when it all started. The hype started for Rekkles he was finally 17 now, he can join an LCS team, he can get paid, he finally matches the stipulations and everything to, what needs to be done, right? So, Rekkles finally joins. He takes over for Puzu in 2014, and Fnatic's back in their old self, being one of the top tier teams in European LCS. Even though there was a surprise by most, Alliance came in, which came in with Tabs, and you had Shook and Froggen, and you had Wicked at the time, and just this legendary team, or as you know as the European Super Team, who kind of came over and reigned the top of the LCS, going ridiculous amount. I think it was like 14-2 or 20-2 by the end of the split. Just a ridiculous amount of wins, ridiculous amounts of loss, small amount of losses, just like Cloud9. Like we thought this was like the Cloud9 era for EU now. They were just dominating, but Fnatic still held their own. They were keeping up there. They were second and third. They were really fighting. SK was right up there, but SK wasn't right at their prime. But we get to the 2014 EULCS playoffs. And first, of course, you play against Alliance, and you play against SK first. And SK, how they were playing in this series was great. A lot of people speculated that SK was actually reaching their point at this point and being one of the top tier teams in EU from how they played in the tournament and how they outplayed even though they lost. But Fnatic ended up winning against SK 3-1. Funny enough, they lost to Royal Club back in Worlds 3-1. But they ended up losing and getting second place to Alliance because it was Fnatic versus Alliance for the finals, and Alliance ends up taking it 3-1. I know nobody can just go sweep them. Nobody can't be that close. It can't be 3-2 or whatever the case may be. No, 3-1, 3-1. Anywho. So, Fnatic still makes it in the playoffs, World Championships for Season 4, and they got Rekkles now. Rekkles is this great ADC. Everybody's watching him. You know, you have all these great ADCs from all over the world. If you're taken from NA, you had Wild Turtle at the time, and you had Vasily from LMQ, which was doing really good. SK, which was doing okay. Candy Panda at the time. Um, you know, and then you had all the others. You had Uzi again, you had Def, you had just all these great ADCs all in one, and it was just a great time to watch. And you could really compare Rekkles to other ADCs, and Rekkles did well. He didn't do really bad overall. Worlds, he did good. Fnatic in itself didn't do too hot in Worlds, yet again losing the group stages, not doing where they expected to be, and then that's when it all happened. And what do I mean by that? Fnatic had these internal problems, with it be managers or players not getting along with one another. Expected goes a separate way with Soaz, and the jungler ends up leaving, and it just seemed to be this whole mess. And Rekkles now seemed to be in the middle because he had a contract with Fnatic at the time. He had a contract for 2 years, and what happened was he was like, "Fine, I don't want to be in this drama anymore. The final price to buy me out is 20,000 or something to that extent, because you could overbuy somebody's contract for so much money, right?" Well, Alliance wanting this prospect, even though they had Tabs, which I would compete with Rekkles at one point as being the best ADC, because Tabs did is just as good, if not as better at times than Rekkles and how he played, and depending on his style, was better at Rekkles at some things, and of course weaker than Rekkles at other things. But Alliance really wanted Rekkles, and they pick up Rekkles for Alliance, and now this split, you had Alliance and Rekkles, also known as now Elements. Rekkles joins, and things aren't going well. Elements ends up being this team that is in relegation or could be relegated. It is a possibility. You know, they have to fight their spot back for LCS at this point, and things just aren't going well. Elements is all over the place. It seems that management problems here aren't any better than they were in Fnatic, but that's not what we're talking about team-wise. We're talking about Rekkles. Now, Rekkles, like I said, was one of the best ADCs, and the community thought he was. There was no comparison. Now nobody talks about him. What do I mean by that? Last split, 2013, you had him, or 2013 to 2014, you had him as one of these great ADCs, one of the best. Nobody can compete with him. I don't know what you're talking about. Rekkles is the best ADC, bar none. This split, forgiven. Forgiven's the best ADC. Forgiven. Who the heck is Rekkles? Now, it seemed that Rekkles released, or there's rumors that Rekkles wants to leave Elements and goes back to Fnatic, or wants to leave and go somewhere else within the LCS, and it got me thinking, got me wondering on Rekkles himself. Now, don't get me wrong, Rekkles is a good ADC and a solid ADC, and he has his pros and cons just like everybody else. He's got great positioning, and he knows what he has to do in team fights, and if you can get him really fed or steamrolling, he can carry you a game. I've seen it done in World Championships. He carried games. He's carried games on his own. He can put you on your back, but he needs that support, and he needs that team behind him. And I feel like Alliance and Fnatic are two different teams. Alliance is more of that sit back. When I say Alliance, I'm talking about Elements, by the way. But they're that sit back team. They want to farm, and then they want to get to that late game where they hit all their power spikes at once, and they just want to outpower and outplay and just out team fight the other team. Which it worked. It worked in 2014, and it ultimately worked until they got kaboomed. Huh? Kaboomed? No, but it ultimately worked for the most part. It wasn't going to work on a world stage, but it worked for the EU LCS because they ultimately could outperform most of the teams that they were facing. Now, this split, that's not the case. You know, teams been switched up. There's a lot of imports from all around the country. People from Korea coming in, people from China coming in, if that was the case. You know, you have all these new people switching teams. You know, you got Forgiven, who was on Copenhagen Wolves at one time, now playing on SK, and they're doing really hot, and just SK was just ready on a steamroll, but Forgiven just added a piece to SK. Fnatic swapped everything pretty much besides their support, and once again, Fnatic just shows that they can recruit people and know how to pick people and match people together, even though, there may be a language barrier with that, whatnot, but they're doing really hot. And then, of course, you have H2K that came out of there with probably coaching them, and Gambit still being that dark horse, still working through their issues, but still coming up ahead. And ultimately, they're doing great. But where does that leave Rekkles? Because that's the main point of the video. Rekkles being from this great ADC to this person that's not talked about anymore. He's still a good ADC, and I still think he's a good fit for a team, and I don't think he should leave the LCS. He's still got plenty of potential, and I don't think he was burnt out after 1 year. I think he just needs to find a team that's right for him. I don't think going back to Fnatic is going to fix anything, but it is a possibility. Why do I say that? Because Reignover right now is a good ADC, but he's just known for cleaning up. A lot of people don't like him. He doesn't really have that support. Rekkles is comparing the two, Rekkles would be a better ADC. Like I said, he's got better positioning. He's not afraid to team fight. It seems like Reignover is, I don't know, hesitant to team fight, or his picks, he's just not confident in his picks. And once again, he's got this pressure, and it's his first time in the LCS stage, I believe. And just comparing the two, Rekkles just has that confidence. He has that world's background, even though they lost. He's been there. He's had that experience, and I think he would be a good add to the team. I mean, he can ultimately help the bottom lane. I think it would be a stronger bottom lane, and he's already worked with the Yellow Star in the past, and I think ultimately it would work out if things management-wise work out. On the other hand, if he doesn't join Fnatic, he has a possibility to come join an NA team. It's a possibility to do that, which I don't know who would take over right now. There's really no NA spots, ADC spots really taken, because when you look at the NA, there's very saturated ADC spots. So I don't see him coming that way. Other EU teams that may take him, but it's highly unlikely. You could probably try Rokat. They may try and pick him up and work a deal with him. You could also do Unicorns of Love. I'm not saying their bot lane's bad, but it's a possibility if they want a little bit better, a little bit of different style, they may try and pick him up. I don't see Gambit trying to take him. I don't see H2K at the time taking him, and I don't see SK taking him. So if it came down to thing, more likely it would probably be Fnatic. He could try to dip his hands into the NA pot and right now, but I don't really see any teams really dying and need for an ADC. If that be the case, it may be Gravity replacing Cop. Everybody doesn't like Cop, get Cop out of there. I think he's consistent ADC, but that's a different story, a different topic. But Rekkles overall, I think he has a lot of potential. I think he just still doesn't know what he wants to do, where he feels comfortable. I think he's working through the whole politic thing and the whole background of, management-wise. He needs just to find a team that he feels is there management-wise, which has a structure, which I don't think Alliance has, or what he's looking for. And I think if he has that structure and that base right there, I think he'll be comfortable and just needs to perform and do what he does best, and that is, ADC, and keep playing the way he's playing. I don't think that we should judge him too hard on how he's played this split. Like I said, Alliance has had a lot of internal problems, a lot of issues, swapping out a bunch of people left and right. Just all kinds of ordeals. They swap their top, they put their top back in, they swap in their support, putting their support back in. Like I said, all kinds of ordeals, all kinds of issues that are going on with the line. So I think Rekkles in itself may want to get out of that situation. He may give it an go. Like I said, it is rumored that he's looking and wants to leave. Like I said, you could see him back up on Fnatic. You could see him in a few other. I gave you a few other examples. Like I said, but like I said, other than that, that is it. I was gonna say, Rekkles may be jumping the gun too much, expecting too much from his team, but it's understandable. I mean, he went from Fnatic, he got into Worlds. They didn't do too hot. Management-wise, you lost all your people. You lost Expeke, you lost your top laner. You lost your jungler, and you have just to rework everything. And Rekkles ended up losing and being bought out by Alliance, and now he's not happy where he's at now. So it's understandable. He's going to move. I'm sure he's going to move one or two other times. Um, because he just seems that kind of guy. Like he wants to test everything out, and I think it's hard to judge a company or a team by a few weeks or a few scrims. I mean, you really have to get in delved and involved with the team to really see where they stand and where if your values and ordeals and morals, add out and be even with the team. But sorry for ranting. That is it. Thank you all for watching. I think Rekkles will bounce back. Rekkles will be competing. I would hope to give Forgiven a run for his money. I hope to do better against Pinoy and, of course, better against H2K's ADC and Power of Evil's team. But we'll see what he does. Like I said, maybe he's jumping the gun too soon. I don't think so. It would be nice to see him back in Fnatic. Is it likely? I'm not too sure what they want to do with Reignover. I think Reignover's doing fine. A lot of people give him crap, but I think ultimately Reignover fits in that team and fits what he needs to do for that team. So we'll see what Rekkles does. That is it, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.